as about the climax of the story, we're on air.
Tune in later for the details.
Sideline Stories After Dark.
It's the sexiest kind.
So sexy. Welcome to Calling the Audible, the Ebony and Ivory Show. What we really call it, Calling the Audible.
I am Ebony.
And the Ivory of the show is PC Delarice and Mocon, of course, with our producer extraordinaire, Hunger Games, and Tony D'Aversa. How do you say it as Robert Campana will say, like the Italian way?
Antonio?
He goes, Antonio D'Aversa.
That's a weird way to pronounce Chapman.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, he's weird. And the man who caws once in a while, Eagle.
So much delay.
Very delayed.
So much. Did I swear you did the 7 seconds? Oh God.
Yes.
Is here to take several weird steps towards a penalty shot and rather walked into this wonderful complex. What can you get there?
Well, it is not the Bell Center. Let's get that clear. It is the Sportira cage. We're live in the Sportira cage, of course. To the back of us, PZ's right, my left. It is the Sportira cage, proud sponsor of the FPF podcast that we had all throughout the evening. And, of course, with the season now done, you could perhaps get yourself a jersey for Week 10, perhaps. But if not, for the winter season that will be coming in January 2017.
Or print yourself championship T-shirts.
Yes.
I'll get a little hype.
Or get yourself an alternate jersey kit for the playoffs if you're going to be the away team.
Which we'll talk about later in the show.
Absolutely. And
See what I did there? I went with the soccer reference.
Yes.
I went to your wheelhouse.
Yes.
Referencing Zaza's penalty his ill-fated penalty kick last week.
We'll do a Zaza throughout this podcast. But Sportira, proud sponsor of this show and others. And, of course, your official supplier for FPF uniforms. And get yourself your uniform for next year, if not now, which is now Week 8 into Week 9. All right, PC, let's talk about the week that was. I saw a few games. I know you saw some yourself. What caught your attention?
I was there for an historic moment in FPF. It's a bit of a dubious historic moment.
For Divi.
But I think Gronky Kong, who is now officially the worst franchise in the history of FPF, has now won their first game. They're now 1-17.
Yeah, woo!
So it was nice to see the boys do well. Now, the thing is, we talked about all these acquisitions they made in the offseason and during the season as well, adding Alexis Labonte, Francois Martin, Josh Levine, David Del Rocca. All four were finally there at a game, and this is what we expected.
Well, let's not forget.
Vastly improved squad.
18-0 lead. They almost blew that
They
lead.
almost did, yeah. Francois Martin didn't look as sharp in the second half, although he did hit Levine for a long strike to seal the deal. Simon Laporte started at quarterback for Jean-Guy, and it got physical between him and David Del Rocca. Laporte was running with his shoulder down all game. David Del Rocca took exception to it and basically form tackled him to the ground. The two were kind of at it all night. Nothing particularly dangerous, but very physical. And then one other thing I want to draw attention to was a guy that's not particularly known in this league. Christopher Greeley had a beautiful drive-by pick. Ball floated a little bit, kind of went in between the two receivers. He just went right in between and picked it up on the run for an interception.
In your humble opinion, how critical?
My opinion is never humble and the greatest.
I know. That's why I try to tame down these opinions.
Never.
How awful of a loss this is for Jean-Guy. That's in the thick of the playoff race, of course, but also for potential division title as well.
Chapman, what happened last season with Jean-Guy?
Well, I predicted that Gronky Kong would beat them.
But not only that, I'm saying they went 5-0 to start.
Oh, yeah. Then they went 1-4 in their last 5 games.
It feels like that's just what they do is they get off to a decent start, and then they just fall to pieces. And you have your quarterback missing for a game late in the season. It's a little...
Lamy, yeah.
Yeah, and he was actually there. He was dressed in a blue T-shirt on the sideline. I think he was injured or just didn't feel like playing.
Took the night off. The game that caught my attention from Sunday's action was GYR winning 36-18 over Sioux Tang Clan. Mm-hmm. And you talk about trippiness. You thought your game was chippy. This game was chippier. And look, at the end of the day, when you look at the stats, obviously someone's going to say, well, Nathaniel Niederman had a great game, which he did. 4 catches, 4 TDs. But what was crazy, though, was that at one point early in the first half, 3 consecutive plays, 3 sacks. And he single-handedly won that game for GYR. I caution the optimism for GYR because PJ Bellick has to develop other connections on that offense, which he's done, right?
Yeah.
He's using Chan a couple times earlier in the season. But if you are Sioux Tang Clan, you have to ask yourself, how do we allow one guy to beat us like they did? And this wasn't even close late in the football game, which GYR pulled away, even though Bellick had 9 completions. And guess what? 6 of them went for touchdowns. A great TD to completion ratio that he had on Sunday nights.
Yeah, and the thing is, with Bellick, we've seen that he's got off to a great start in FPF, but he's not completely polished as far as quarterbacking. I mean, you look just at the stats: 26 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. That's a phenomenal start. But we see weeks where his ratio, like he's had 2 weeks where his ratio was like 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Then 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. And then, he has other games like this one where he goes 6-1. So, I mean, it's not balanced. He's not there yet, but an impressive start for a good new FPF quarterback.
All right, what else caught your attention from this past week?
What caught my attention, I got to see Dirty Mike and the boys whip the Premium Panthers. Dirty Mike and
now
the boys
officially
keeping
out.
Yeah, Premium Panthers officially out. Dirty Mike and the boys, they have a chance to get back in. And we'll talk about what kind of chance they have later in the show. Are we the only ones not eating burgers in this goddamn production?
I think so.
Yep.
Apparently.
And it's like burgers from different places.
All sorts of fast
Oh,
food.
look
No,
at
I'm
that.
good. Thank you, Eagle. I'm good. All sorts of fast food being wrapped up.
We
in
could do
here.
like Burger Day next week.
And there's a dude I want to draw attention to for Dirty Mike and Boys. Hasn't
Yeah.
got a lot of attention. I think he's going to be their key moving forward. Vladimir Markowski. He's only got 14 catches.
Yeah.
But of those 14 catches, 5 of them are touchdowns. So definitely get this guy the ball. I don't know why by week 8 he's barely averaging 2 catches a game.
Tuesday's action in Broster at Trinity, Rolling Thunder. The Trinity finally get back on the right track, winning 26-20. A very highly physical affair between these two teams here. But I thought Trinity's defense played very well. Drummondville came up big with a few plays. Geoff Marquis as well came up with a few big plays on defense. They really stymied Jeremy D at quarterback, who had 4 INTs in that loss against Trinity. But again, PZ, the one thing that I worry about Trinity now at this point is, who is the real Trinity that we're going to see as we move towards the tournament? Or is it the one that we saw in the first 4 weeks that was unstoppable, or the middle part of the year where they were definitely, literally on a lifeboat hoping to get saved?
They weren't literally on a lifeboat because they weren't close to a body of water, as far as I know. But I will say that in this game, it's nice to see them compete in a game that's somewhat impassioned, where we feared that was their undoing. Is as soon as the other team starts talking, as soon as the other team gets physical, they sort of shrink. So nice to see them not be the case. On the other hand, Jeremy D as quarterback, he's got so many weapons, and he gets the ball in his hand, stares down the rusher, immediately rolls to his right or his left, and then chucks up a duck. And if he just caught the ball, made a read through the ball, like he can literally throw hooks, drags, slants to these amazing receivers all game long, but he just doesn't know how to do that at this stage in his development.
Other games that may have caught your attention from this past week?
While Roadrunners beating the Warriors, that was a big one, 33-27. And sort of 2 middle pack, but potential contenders as they get set for the postseason. Justin Lerner again, another big game. But nice to see Emmanuel Sarikakis get on the scorecard as well with a touchdown. He actually threw for 5 touchdowns more in this game, and had a couple of running attempts as well. So definitely cool to see him to see him move the ball. On the other side, Michael Soleimani, he wasn't himself. He only 4 touchdowns, 2 receptions. That might be enough to get by sometimes, but you're really relying on your defense, and the Roadrunners just proved to be too much of an offensive juggernaut.
Well, fun enough, Soleimani could win quarterback of the year later on from our predictions. One last game here, Lehuard and Spartans. On paper looked like it was a mismatch with the Spartans being undefeated coming into this game. Lehuard fighting for the playoff spots. They tied 18-18, an emotional victory for them. I think they needed the full 2 points here. I think that tie may not be enough for them to get back into the playoff picture. They're still alive.
Yeah. Don't forget, though, Lehuard had 2 games that were ties, so a couple of bounces go their way, and they're a 4-win team, so it's still surprising to beat to
they
tie
are
the
a
Spartans.
tough defense.
But the thing is that they're a tough defense, and they're big. Like, I noticed a lot of Division E teams are small dudes. Like,
They're thick.
These are big, thick guys. They take up a lot of space on defense. So James D'Andrea, new quarterback, still learning. Especially a guy who likes taking shots. It's hard to make throws over big, tall guys, and that's really hard. That's the challenge they present as a defense.
And also, the defense really took away the deep ball. I know they had a couple.
I just said that. That's the thing I said.
I know. But
by being
but
big
in that game, though,
yes,
especially
in this game, the one we're talking about, Mo.
But in the last 5 plays, though, where D'Andrea wanted to go deep numerous times, he only got one deep ball connection. But once they got to the red zone, that's where they couldn't get anything going. And unfortunately,
it's almost like I think with the Spartans, you could just wait the 1 yard line. Unflag Alexis Bissett at the 1 yard line, and then play red zone defense. I think you'll be okay.
Or you just play prevent defense, right? You just play everyone 5 deep, and then let them throw a deep ball, see if they can connect.
See what happens.
Again, we'll talk about that tie, whether or not it hurts the Spartans or even puts them in position for maybe a higher seed here. But seeing them afterwards, I said, guys, what happened? We show up to your games, you guys get nervous. They go, yeah, it wasn't our best game. And we'll see if that will carry over, because remember, it's Peasy. As well as they've been even last winter, they also stumbled towards the end of the season, didn't have a really good playoff run, which they were 1 and done, and didn't make a deep playoff run as well. So we'll see what happens. All right, PZ, before we get into the thick of the playoff race here, let's give our Div E teams a playoff explanation of what to look forward to for the Div E playoffs as they now approach that in 2 weeks' time. One thing to look at, PZ, the referees. Obviously, there's 2 referees in a typical regular season game, but now there'll be 3 referees. What can they expect now? Do they see this now being a better flow of officiating from these guys?
Yes. The one thing I will say is you won't be any less happy or unhappy or more unhappy about the calls. You'll still always think things should go your way. Honestly, I don't think it should change much. If you're physical defense, keep playing physical. If you're finesse, keep playing finesse. Like we talked about penalties a couple weeks ago, Mo. It's about you're good. With 3 refs on the field, you're going to take flags. Make sure that when you take them, they're smart circumstances. There's right times to take penalties, and you can kind of work it into your defensive scheme like you see in basketball, when to take fouls and so on and so forth. I feel like it's that kind of thing, and it's amplified in the playoffs. So, again, 1st and 10 holding is not a big deal. 4th and 10, and you would have stopped them short and you give up a stupid penalty, then that's when it affects you.
And let's not forget, sorry, Eagle, I was going to say the position of the referee, the head referee will now be behind the quarterback. And the one common denominator with a lot of people or a lot of quarterbacks is that, hey, ref, you didn't see the
contact on the
arm, right? So now you'll see that the odds will be much more focused on the quarterback rusher scenario. Eagle, yes.
I was going to say exactly that.
Oh. Hunger Games want to
we're going to put you on the spot in about 5 seconds, Eagle. Don't worry about it. Another thing to keep in mind is there's actually FPF as of the winter season that just passed, instituted sort of a home field advantage for teams that are the higher seed. There's no coin toss. You decide at the beginning of the game whether or not you choose to receive the ball or whether or not you wish to start on defense. That's something that we started as a way to give sort of a home field advantage. And some teams like to, for example, really like to have their defense out there, make a stop early, and then get the ball back second half, or vice versa. Try and put points up, put the pressure on right away. So it's interesting to see. I like to see in playoff games who likes to do what kind of teams like the different advantages. Eagle, there's actually one thing I need your input for, because I never remember this goddamn rule. What is the tiebreaker overtime rules? How does it work in overtime in the FPF playoffs?
Very good question. Basically, it's a best of 3.
Amazing. Thank you.
It's extra points. Each team gets 3 rounds. You get to choose to go for 1 point from the 5, 2 points from the 10, or 3 points from the 15. Every time you get to the line, you get to choose, effectively. And then whoever has the most points at the end of the rounds wins. Otherwise, you go into sudden death overtime, 1 round at a time. Mm-hmm. Again, the home team gets to choose whether they want to start or go second.
Okay. So
and I know for those who are not familiar with this, if you watch past Games of the Weeks in the playoff edition or see overtimes from past finals, you'll see how it's applied, where each team will get minimum 3 attempts from the 5, 10, or 15 from different point variations. And at the end, if it's tie, we go to sudden death, as Eagle made the point before.
One thing to mention here, for penalties, they're applied based on the previous spot. So, for example, if you go for 1 point from 5, and you get a PI or whatever it is in the end zone, so you would march all the way up to the 1 yard line. If you now decide to go for 2 points, you don't start at the 1 again. You just gain the advantage of the yards of that you gained from the last penalty.
So 2 from 5, for example,
or 3 for 10, exactly.
Yeah.
Wow, imagine some teams up by, I don't know, 5-0, and they go for a 3-pointer back-to-back to win it 6-5. You never know. So that's it, though. That we wanted to give you the gist of the playoff explanation of what to look forward to with the 3 referees, potential overtime scenarios, and, of course, the coin toss being very important for the Div teams who have not
Let's get into some playoff breakdowns, Mo.
experiencing that. All right, here we go. Conference A playoffs. Let's look at the standings right now. Let's look at the first 2 teams here for Conference A in terms of the playoff standings. And as you can see on your TV screens or computer or smartphone.
I love how Eagle makes us do that. Like, if you're watching, you see it on the screen. And if you're listening, you can't see it anyway.
I know.
So
Just
talking about how
visualize
you can see it is the dumbest thing ever.
It's for the
Go
people
ahead.
that zone out on YouTube.
I guess it's for the blind.
So
For the few
LBJ,
blind players we have. For Simon Dagenet. Hence all the interceptions.
LBJ, TDs and Beers are the 1 and 2 seeds right now. Who are you giving the edge to as the number 1 team going into the Conference A playoffs in 2.5 weeks' time?
So I'm going to go into some generic stuff. While I do that, Chapman, give me who each team is playing so that I can...
TDs and Beers
Okay.
have the Water
Even
Lizards and Aliens. LBJ has J&C, Jags and Chills, and Super Troopers.
I say LBJ is going to come out ahead right now. They have the tie break in a sense because they have fewer points against. LBJ's defense has been very impressive to me all season. Now, in the past 3 games, Tees and Beer have outscored their opponents, I think, 121-40 in the last 3 games. So,
Not too bad.
So, I mean, like, they're definitely catching their stride. That said, they do face the 2 best teams in their subdivision in Conference A East in Smoke and Axles and Aliens. So we'll have to see how that goes. I think especially the Smoke and Axles game will be close because of the way the Smoke and Axles sort of grind things out. As for LBJ, the one threat I might see is Jaggies and Chill. Despite their consistency, it's a team that does score a lot of points. They've scored 216 points for so far. That's 27 points a game. Honestly, that might be a threat to that just because it may come down to points against, but I do think LBJ will edge it out and will be the top seed.
All right, a team that I've been on the bandwagon for quite a while because I believe they will win. The Tigers, if they were to lose this weekend to Dirty M's, Dirty Mike's, are they in trouble? And now do you give Dirty Mike's a fighter's chance to get into the playoffs if they get this victory over Tigers this weekend?
Maybe, like, if for Dirty Mike and the boys, look, they have 2 wins. The games they won were against Face Jazz and Permian Panthers, 2 teams that have been struggling. Now they're facing Tigers and they're facing Jaggies and Chill. I don't think they'll win both of those games.
Right.
For the Tigers, they kind of lucked out and had the best end of schedule possible. They face Dirty Mike and the boys and Permian Panthers. So
2 winnable games.
Two games they should win.
Yeah.
But I think that the Tigers have still shown to be inconsistent. So even if they go 6-4, I'm worried about them in the playoffs.
Ooh, that means PC saying don't buy stock in the Tigers.
Don't buy stock in Tigers.
No,
They're an
none.
endangered species.
Yes, they are.
At any point, we might lose them. They might fall off the face of the planet.
Now here's a
Facts.
weird scenario with Beast Mode, a team that I'm not a very big fan of.
They're your Tigers, so to speak.
They sort of are. They could make the playoffs. There's no doubt about that. But the unpredictability of the Goon Squad, who've now missed 2 games in a row due to forfeits,
Which is pretty crappy, by the way.
which is pretty sad.
the
That's
thing
3
is,
in the last 2 years, or last 2 seasons. Pardon me.
That's the thing. It's just frustrating because they were Goon Squad was a team that was kind of in the thick of it anyway. Like, I'm guessing they probably all went on like a
The captain's
boys'
away
vacation
on
kind
I
of
think
thing?
work or vacation, whatever reason it is, and unfortunately, whoever's taking leadership has not really been thorough in trying to get guys to come to the
I
field.
don't know. Just find some guys. Get your mom out there. Get your neighborhood cat. Like whatever. Just get guys out there to play. It's the most frustrating thing in the world.
Chapman, are you on a 3rd team by chance?
No, but I need to be released by Grunky Kong.
Uh-oh.
But I can play.
Although now Chapman is on a 1-win team in spirit.
Yes, he is.
Yes.
You
No
can't be
longer-
released anymore.
Yeah. You also passed the release deadline, so no. But
Oh, I tried.
Eagles available. Mo Khan's available.
I am scorekeeping, yes. Well, like a beast mode, hopefully Goon Squad does show up this week. That's the first important step in their recovery. And if they do show up, hopefully they have a team. If they do have a team, hopefully it's a competitive game. If not, then Beast Mode will win this football game moving ahead.
Yeah.
Okay, there. Vince Nardoni eating an onion ring. Okay, Super Troopers. You look at them right now. Are they the most vulnerable to drop out of the playoff spot? They hold the last playoff spot as we speak. They've been up and down. I've seen a couple of their games. Not impressive in my books, but are they the team that could be on the outside looking in when it's all said and done?
probably because they face Permian Panthers next week, which is likely a win. But then they face Le Bonhomme Jaune, which is likely a loss, given that Gab Wiseman has already thrown 15 interceptions. This is not a team you can make mistakes against.
No.
And Gab has made mistakes this season. So I think they're in a rough spot. I think if they split, they probably won't make the playoffs. But a lot of this comes into Beast Mode's tie. If Beast Mode wins out, that puts Super Troopers in a rough spot, given that I don't think they will win out.
The 4 pointers, that's teams that have 4 points each. Face Jazz, Dirty M's, Dirty Mike's, that is, and Goon Squad, which we mentioned before. Out of these 3 teams, who can sneak into the playoff picture and perhaps right now, PZ, you can say we'll pull an upset in the first round?
For Face Jazz, Eddie Rousseau's only thrown 9 touchdowns all season.
Nice uniforms, but that's about it.
Beautiful uniforms. But that said, like, if you look at Face Jazz, and at this point in the season, I like to look at upcoming games because your previous success and failures are probably your best indicators for future success and failures. They face Aliens and Beast Mode, so 2 teams that are inconsistent, so they can conceivably win those games. Whereas we see with Goon Squad, with Beast Mode, they face Goon Squad this week, as we talked about, and then in the last week they face Jazz. So a lot of these teams have like a fate that's sort of intertwined. I know this is a long answer to your very simple question.
Fair enough.
But Dirty Mike has a couple of matchups that are okay as well. I think Face Jazz, if Eddie Rousseau can right the ship, they're a good enough defense to at least give them a chance.
Yes or no? I know the way the playoffs are structured for that conference. Will it take until week 10 to finalize all the teams that will be in the tournament? Yes or no?
Yeah, because I think that Goon Squad Face Jazz game. Sorry, we're not Goon Squad. Sorry, the Beast Mode Goon Squad, Beast Mode Face Jazz game will have a lot to say about how that all shakes out, and likely as well for the Super Troopers, because I don't think they'll beat LBG, but they'll still be alive for that Week 10 game when they do face LBJ.
Conference B, could we pencil in the Spartans as the official 1 seed? CNN projects what?
I was just thinking about this more. Like, don't you find it funny that in sports we spend so much time on previews? Like, you never see on CNN where they're predicting a war between China and Japan and like who do they think will have more casualties. Sorry about the side note. I find it a bizarre practice, so to speak.
Using Asian angles to describe FPF.
Well, no, it's just like it's a bizarre thing that we spend so much time focusing on. But yeah, what was your question again, Mo?
Can we pencil in Spartans as the number 1 seed with a 3-point gap with them GYR for the 1 and 2 spots?
Yeah, GYR has already got 2 losses. The tie makes it a little bit closer, but I will say the Spartans have 2 trap games coming up. They face Rolling Thunder, who have a lot of talent, despite the lack of success, and Trinity does have a good defense. So now that they've shown they can win these highly emotional games, maybe we'll see them beat Spartans as well. So there's a chance, but I don't see it. I don't see Spartans losing both of those games.
Chapman, you about to say something right now?
Nah, I think they're gonna get first place.
Oh,
They will most likely be undefeated, but not perfect.
No, they're gonna lose that last game. I'm telling you.
Captain Obvious, Chapman.
Except he's wrong. He's Captain Wrong. So he's Captain Mo.
So in this case, GYR, is it now a race for second place with them and the Warriors?
Nope, because that's not how the playoffs work, Mo. The second place has to go to the other conference. So second place is going to be either GYR,
The second
Zhangyi, Sutan Clan.
Well, what do you think in that case then? How that would play out?
Well, I think Zhangyi are in a rough spot. They having lost already to Gronky Kong.
And if GYR coming up this
They
week,
face GYR and Sutan Clan. Sutan Clan is a team that can jump up, being that they face Zhangyi. So if Sutan Clan wins that game, they can jump up. And they have a game against Victoria's Secret, and we'll talk about Victoria's Secret in a little bit as well. But I think, honestly, most likely GYR hangs on to it, and I think they kind of clinched that second place this week by beating Zhangyi.
Trinity, STC, Roadrunners, those 3 teams are sort of in that, I guess, neck and neck area of having that playoff race come down to them. Are they contenders or pretenders in your mind out of these three teams?
It's just a narrative we make up, Mo. I mean, in the end, it's all about matchups. How many times do we see in the conference finals where we say this is actually the final game, because the finals game we know won't be competitive because the matchup just is more favorable. So like a team like Roadrunners, for example, is very, very matchup dependent. So far, teams have struggled to face Justin Lerner, but if you have a guy to shut him down, they don't have much beyond that. Sutan Clan is a team that's marched the field really well and then struggled in the red zone. So we see playoff games, every yard is more contested, so red zone success is a bigger predictor of success than it is in the regular season. So I think Sutan Clan has the makings to be a one and done. But again, if they also play teams that don't score a lot of points, they can have the matchups that'll favor them and they can make a deep run in the playoffs.
Look at Victoria's Secret. They currently hold the 8th spot. Will it be a 3-team race with them, Rolling Thunder, and Lehiwar for the last playoff spot in Conference B?
So Victoria's Secret plays Sutan Clan and Gronky Kong.
Yes.
Gronky Kong looked really impressive with all their pieces there.
If those guys show up.
They looked very impressive. So that's not a write-off anymore. Sutan Clan again. They're not a team that you can take lightly. What are the other? Who are the other teams playing? Rolling Thunder and Lehiwar.
Rolling Thunder this week.
They play each other at one point.
Yeah, Rolling Thunder this week will have at 3 and 5. Pardon me. They will now play this week according to my schedule. Spartans this week.
So that's a rough game, and I mean it's a game again that they can win because they do have good athletes. But they will lose to Spartans or Roadrunners. That's just a really tough road at this point.
And they had the Roadrunners this week on top of that, so not the easiest schedule to navigate through.
Victoria's Secret will just hold on to it, but I think Victoria's Secret might actually be able to hold on to it, and all three teams can go 0-6. You know what I mean? I can foresee that being a likely scenario.
And the last two teams who still have a playoff hope, a glimmer of hope, that is. Crusaders Gronkon, who, by the way, play each other this week, so this is a de facto playoff game, which we'll get to.
I'm going to try and avoid watching that game.
Games of the week here. Okay, essentially this is what has to happen. Victoria's Secret, Lehiward, and Rolling Thunder all have to lose this week for one of these two teams to have a chance at a playoff spot and keep themselves
and look,
alive.
We just said that those three teams can all lose out, right? Like
they could.
It's not unforeseeable. All three of them have difficult roads to the playoffs.
So what is the key, or what are the keys in this game with Crusaders and Gronkon in order for one of these two teams to prevail with the victory in their back pockets?
Crusaders don't score enough points, man. It's tough. They face Gronky Kong, they face GYR. The thing with Gronky Kong is even when they struggled this season, they were at least putting up points.
Yeah.
Crusaders look like where Gronky Kong were last year.
Right.
So despite the fact that they got their first win in their first season, I don't think they'll win that game. And looking at Gronky Kong's schedule, they face Crusaders and Victoria's Secret, 2 winnable games. I don't know. All right, can I say it?
Not yet. You can't make the pick yet.
I'm going to make the bold prediction.
Not yet.
Not yet?
Not yet. We're picking that game afterwards.
Oh, that's a good teaser, Mo. I like it.
That's how we do. Now it's time for the Diversas, the year-end awards with Antonio Diversa, or we call them the Chapmans. The Chapmans.
I'm okay with that.
The Chapmans.
Yeah. So, do I start off the segment?
Yes.
All right.
Solimena's got 35 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. Well, make your case for Solimena because I don't see it.
Well, hold on. Let's look at the yards also. When you look at the yards per quarterback,
the yards are made up. You know that, right? As a scorekeeper, you know better than most.
I'm not saying anything here, but right now he has a pretty comfortable lead on Evans, who's number 6 right now with about 1,100 yards passing in total compared to his 1,355.
Too many interceptions, though. There's, if it was closer, if let's say he had 4 interceptions instead of 8, I'd say it's a race. But right now, Brad Evans is just being much more efficient with the ball.
All right, then. The next award up for the Chapmans.
Wide receiver of the year, Alexis Bissett, yes or no?
I say yes. Honestly, Bissett's a guy I've been on all season. And, of course, those of you playing the home game are going to wonder why we're not saying Justin Lerner or Nathaniel Niederman, and we'll talk about that in a second as well. Alexis Bissett, look, 21 catch, which isn't necessarily impressive unless you consider he has 28 catches and almost half of them going for touchdowns. I like him. He needs to just get a couple more touchdowns. I think he will, just because the Spartans will rely on him in the last couple of games. But another guy who may beat him there is Jameel Greenidge.
If Greenidge is able to put together 20 catches in the next 2 games for about 200 yards and maybe like 5 touchdowns.
Yeah, but what if he gets like 5 touchdowns in the next 2 games and then Bissett doesn't get any?
Then I think he wins it.
Obviously, that's what I'm saying.
So I think right now Bissett is the lead horse on the final turn down the straightaway at the Kentucky Derby, that is. But we've seen crazy things happen in those type of horse races, so it could happen that maybe Jameel Greenidge gets the big crown over his head. Next award up, please.
So, is Vincent Marquis the Defensive Player of the Year?
I think he is.
Yeah. There's also Nathaniel Niedermeyer who's got 19 sacks. If he gets up and around 25, I think that's when you start to consider a rusher. Cedric Jeté-Lemay also at 19 at this point in the season. So we have 2 rushers in contention. Vincent Marquis probably has the lead right now, though, with 7 interceptions, 10 pass deflected. But I will say William Power also plays in a higher division, so that doesn't work. Yeah, so at that point, Vincent Marquis, if it's going to go to a DB, it'll be Vincent Marquis. But I wouldn't count out either Cedric Lemay or Nathaniel Niederman because, look, you said yourself, Niederman started the game with 3 sacks last week. So if he has that kind of game again, there's a chance.
All right, last award for the Chapmans.
Can I ask a question first?
Yes.
Why is there no rusher of the year? Why can't we just separate them?
I agree.
We could. We'll name the Mokan Award.
It's one of those weird things.
I'm fine with that.
It's one of those weird things like why we don't take stats for converts. Like it's one of those things we don't do. Being a learner,
Learn something.
You better learn your place.
It's right here in this
Chapman.
All right, games of the week, please.
All right.
Games of the week.
My favorite segment.
As always.
Gronky Kong versus Crusaders. The Crusaders are 3.5 point favorites.
I don't know. How can they be favored? How?
Because it's
In
Gronky
what
Kong they're playing.
universe? Yeah, Gronky Kong won a game. They look much more impressive than Crusaders this week. Gronky Kong all the way. Make it 6 points.
Give me Crusaders. Let's go.
Ugh.
Tigers versus Dirty Mike and the boys. The Tigers are 6.5 point favorites.
Tigers.
Tigers. I know M's need the win for the playoff spot. Give me the Tigers.
Roadrunners versus Les Huards. The Roadrunners are actually set up to play out.
What did you learn in today's episode?
I learned that Eagle actually has leprechaun blood.
Oh, is it green? Is leprechaun blood green? Okay.
What did you learn today, Chapman?
The eagle has green blood.
Okay. Eagle, what did you learn today?
That I can eat 2 hamburgers from A&W.
I learned that we have a new traditional thing called the Chapmans.
You created it. How could you have learned it?
Well, we named it right now. Good night, Cardiff City.